Tonight, Canadians turn out in record numbers to cast their vote for the next Prime Minister.
I want someone who can take on Trump.
The Liberals and NDP deliver their platforms, the Conservatives dishing out more jabs.
Mark Carney is far more costly than Justin Trudeau.
This is the most consequential vote of our lifetimes.
The state of the race with just 1 week to go. The U.S. Supreme Court delivers a big blow to Donald Trump's deportation plan.
Preparations were being made to deport these individuals without any process whatsoever.
How the U.S. president is responding. Old rivalries renewed, new ones formed.
You have a 1 in 16 chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
5 Canadian teams begin their quest to bring home the NHL's greatest prize.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemensing.
The federal election campaign is entering its final stretch, and there are clear signs tonight Canadians are keen to make their vote count. Record numbers have been showing up at advance polls. About 2 million people marked their ballots on Friday alone. The main party leaders are hoping that early turnout adds up to success on election night. But they're certainly not waiting to find out, with the NDP and Liberals now showing how they plan to pay for all those promises they've made. While Pierre Poilievre has not yet released a costed platform, he's taking the opportunity to slam the Liberals' plan. Olivia Stefanovich now with how the top contenders are trying to pull ahead.
A pivotal election already seeing a major turnout.
It's an exciting time. I think a lot of people are engaged, and we just wanted to be part of it.
I didn't want to take a chance to miss on the 28th.
There's a lot on the table this time, and so I think people are really trying to take into consideration and get to the polls.
Elections Canada says nearly 2 million Canadians marked their ballots on Friday, the opening day of advance voting, setting a record.
I want someone who can take on Trump.
Our relationship with the states is number one.
This is the most consequential vote of our lifetimes.
Liberal leader Mark Carney is pledging $130 billion in new spending, framing it as a way to address the economic crisis caused by the U.S. trade war, with measures that include doubling the pace of home building and meeting NATO's defense spending target.
The Conservative leader doesn't like our plan to stand up to President Trump. Doesn't have his plan. Well, we're waiting.
Pierre Poilievre is indeed the only main party leader who hasn't yet explained how he plans to pay for the promises he's making.
We cannot afford a fourth Liberal term.
But the Conservative leader does have a lot to say about his main opponent.
Mark Carney is far more costly than Justin Trudeau.
Carney's plan projects higher deficits than those expected under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
That might create space for, the conversation to shift away from, for example, Donald Trump, and how do we protect Canada from that?
This pollster says the Conservatives could benefit from concerns over the Liberal spending plan. But he says the Tories also risk losing votes the longer they put off releasing their costed platform.
People aren't quite sure what the Conservatives are going to do. There's lots of conversation about what they'll cut, what they won't, how they'll pay for different tax cuts.
That clarity won't come in time for the millions of Canadians who already cast their ballots. And there's not much time to review the fine details either, since most of the party platforms are being released in the final stretch of this campaign.
Olivia, the Conservative leader did provide a little more information about where he plans to save money.
He did. Well, Pierre Poilievre says he wants to cut the federal government's budget for consultants by $10 billion. That's the same level that it was under former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Now, this measure won't cover his income tax promise, which is set to cost $14 billion when fully implemented, raising questions about where else he plans to find the money to pay for his promises, Ian.
Olivia Stefanovich in Ottawa. All of the main party leaders are back out campaigning right across the country.
I'm Ashley Burke covering the Liberal campaign. Leader Mark Carney spent some of Easter Sunday at an outdoor rally in his Ottawa riding. In front of hundreds of supporters, he tried to counter his opponent's claims that his government would be just like the previous Liberal government. Carney listed off what he's changed, including canceling the capital gains tax increase and getting rid of the carbon tax, then took aim at his main rival, Pierre Poilievre. Carney tried to liken the Conservative leader to Donald Trump, saying Poilievre copies the U.S. president's ideas, like recently promising to bring back plastic straws. It's all part of Carney's final pitch to voters this week. He's holding rallies here in Atlantic Canada next, where he's riding high in the polls and hopes voters can help him win the strong mandate he's after.
I'm Kate McKenna covering the Conservatives in Surrey, BC. Leader Pierre Poilievre was asked whether he'd repeal a controversial Liberal gun law that banned more than 2,000 makes and models of firearms in Canada. The handgun ban has faced a lot of criticism, from police unions to firearms associations saying it penalizes law-abiding gun owners, not criminals. Poilievre refused to answer the question, a departure from the previous stance he took in an interview earlier this year. Poilievre said his gun control plan involves tightening the border to prevent illegal importation of guns and putting criminals in jail.
I'm Marina von Stackelberg, traveling with the NDP campaign on Vancouver Island. Leader Jagmeet Singh has hit 3 ridings here in one day, all seats the New Democrats hold right now. Now, most of this island is the NDP stronghold, but polls show these seats aren't safe anymore. The NDP faces attacks here on both sides. The Liberals have been campaigning in Victoria, and Conservatives are eyeing ridings like this one, Nanaimo Ladysmith. So Singh has started to push the message that supporters should vote strategically. First, to avoid splitting the vote with the Liberals that could cause progressives to unintentionally elect Conservatives. Second, to prevent a Liberal majority. On Easter weekend, Singh said Canadians should not put all their eggs in one basket.
In Canada, more than 6 million women are 55 years or older, making them an important cohort in any election. And this time around, polls suggest a large portion of that demographic is uniting behind one party and its leader. Nicole Williams spoke with some of those voters.
These women are getting into the groove, concentrating on next steps in more ways than one.
I'm overwhelmed about the many elections that's going on and the many changes and the threats coming from the southern border.
The Canadian economy and our relationship with the U.S. are top of mind for women over 55 this federal election, and many believe Liberal leader Mark Carney is the man to fix it.
He seems calm and he's intelligent, obviously, but also just, he doesn't put up with stuff.
Data shows the majority of women 55 and up in this country are backing the Liberals. According to Angus Reid, more than 50%.
What are the policies that recent Liberal leaders or Liberal governments have enacted? And I think, again, of the provision of free contraceptives. I think, again, of childcare.
That's compared to just over 30% for the progressive Conservatives.
At one point, Conservatives were a viable option, and now they've gone right-wing, like they're polarized, they're working on division.
But even with the recent threats of annexation coming from U.S. President Donald Trump, mature women leaning Liberal isn't necessarily new.
That goes back to the ascent of Justin Trudeau back in 2013, 2014 when he took over as leader.
And while some became disenchanted with Trudeau by the end of his leadership, Mark Carney has managed to renew enthusiasm.
I think that that Carney is the best guy to build Canada up to be its own sovereign nation.
The desire for change in government is still a factor, and some of the women I spoke to say they're planning to vote Conservative with that end in mind. Others suggesting none of the parties are worth voting for at all. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
Indigenous issues haven't received a lot of attention in this election, but there's still a strong push to get First Nations voters to the polls. Cameron McIntosh takes us to a riding in northwestern Ontario where the Indigenous vote could decide the winning candidate.
Little frozen ground isn't stopping NDP candidate Tanya Cameron from setting up her signs.
Perfect.
Even if it means using power tools.
Running in this election, so I'm just
taking her campaign to communities other candidates usually skip, like Washagmas Bay First Nation.
38 First Nations, and we have a lot of power in our vote.
Reaching out to First Nations voters.
While I'm not running as an Indigenous candidate just for the Indigenous vote, we certainly are playing a bigger role in the political campaign.
The Conservatives have held this seat the last 2 elections. This time, 3 of 5 candidates are First Nations. Liberal Charles Fox also trying to tap into that First Nations vote.
I'm not running for myself. I'm running for the future. I want our people to participate.
Now, this riding, Kenora-Kiwetinoong, is one of 36 where the Assembly of First Nations says the First Nations vote could actually determine the outcome. That's because the number of prospective First Nations voters here is actually larger than the margin of victory in the last federal election.
We are going to be discussing the First Nations priorities for the upcoming federal election.
In Manitoba, a push to turn out the First Nations vote. Indigenous leaders talking up the election on podcasts and social media.
First Nations, regardless of the a result, have to be able to show to the electorate in Canada that First Nations votes matter.
Part of that is focusing on young voters. Billy Bird is a youth chief.
I think that it's up to us to empower the next generation to come and to get familiar with these positions and these opportunities.
Back in Wachegamis Bay, John Wasakisik is watching, but not hearing much on Indigenous issues.
I haven't really heard anybody say anything, really.
Still making up his mind who he'll vote for. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Wachegamis Bay First Nation.
Protests have swept across the U.S. this weekend, with tens of thousands rallying against Donald Trump's deportation policies. As Katie Simpson shows, it comes as the Supreme Court issued a rare ruling putting one controversial program on pause.
By the thousands, demonstrators rallied in major U.S. cities, angry about the Trump administration's deportation agenda.
Everyone should have due process. No one should be just taken away and locked up.
I don't think it matters who you are or what situation you're in. Like, that should concern you now. If due process has been abandoned for everybody, it can be abandoned for you.
Many protesters welcoming a fresh Supreme Court ruling ordering President Donald Trump to pause part of his deportation plan.
Preparations were being made to outright defy the will of the Supreme Court and to deport these individuals without any process whatsoever. That is troubling.
Migrants held at this Texas detention center were reportedly set to be deported under the Alien Enemies Act, accused of being gang members. The Supreme Court preemptively halting the plan amid complaints the individuals were not given adequate time to legally challenge deportation orders. The Trump administration is vowing to fight this decision. The border czar defending the plan in an interview taped Friday.
We're using the laws on the books, the statutes on the books, to secure the border and remove significant public safety threats and national security threats to this country.
More than 200 people have already been deported under the Alien Enemies Act, sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador, including Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland father who is in the U.S. illegally but was wrongly deported.
He was sad and traumatized that he was being in prison because he has committed no crimes.
This Democratic senator just met with Garcia in El Salvador. He remains there despite the Supreme Court ordering the Trump administration to facilitate his return to the U.S.
If we deny the constitutional rights of this one man, it threatens the constitutional rights of everybody in America.
The White House insists Garcia is a gang member and released court documents showing his wife previously sought a protection order against him. But he's never been charged or convicted of a crime, and his family denies the allegations.
And Katie, Trump appears to believe that the public opinion is on his side.
Yet Trump likes contrast with Democrats on immigration. On his social media page today, he wrote, "Happy Easter to all the radical left lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring murderers, gang members, and wife-beaters back into our country." It's not an unusual message for Trump, who sees this as a winning issue.
Katie Simpson in Washington. Sudan's civil war is now past the 2-year mark. And as the death toll climbs, Ottawa is facing a backlash for not doing enough to help refugees, including those with family in Canada. Ithil Musa now with those calls for action.
Ruwa El Mahi says her aunt collapsed and died after crossing the Sahara Desert into Egypt to escape the war in Sudan. She says her aunt had applied to come to Canada through a federal resettlement program, but her application was rejected because the program's cap had been met.
They're going through something that's very difficult and just disrupting their lives, and I'm here feeling so helpless.
The war between Sudan's army and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary has killed an estimated 150,000 people. It's forced more than 13 million from their homes, and those who have managed to make it back are confronted with ruin.
They will come back and they will find their houses either looted or destroyed. The public services have been totally destroyed.
The United Nations says hunger has reached catastrophic levels, and a new report by Amnesty International reveals the use of sexual violence by members of the Rapid Support Forces as a weapon of war.
Women and girls are particularly vulnerable. There's really no protection of civilians at all right now throughout Sudan.
Sami Atabani knows this all too well. He's applied twice to bring his adopted sister and her 7 children to Canada. Atabani says their ethnicity makes them a major target.
Khulud is Darfuri. Genocide is committed against individuals like her.
Atabani believes the federal program to bring Sudanese refugees to Canada is moving too slowly, and he's not alone.
The nature of this program is around crisis response. Crisis response by nature means you need to bring people fast.
Tens of thousands of Afghans and Ukrainians have been admitted to Canada to escape conflict in the last few years. But only about 700 Sudanese have made it to Canada under the federal government's program. Experts and advocates warn more delays will only result in more deaths. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Pope Francis used his Easter Sunday message to reiterate calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
Buona Pasqua.
The Pope delivered the message during a brief appearance on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica before greeting tens of thousands of people in St. Peter's Square. Earlier in the day, the 88-year-old, who's still recovering from double pneumonia, met with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. At Windsor Castle, King Charles and Queen Camilla marked Easter at a church service at St. George's Chapel. Afterwards, the pair greeted onlookers along with other members of the royal family. This comes following the King's annual Easter message, in which he reflected on the heroic acts of humanitarians who are in war-torn countries. A young mother from the Maritimes is sharing her story after finding a hidden camera in the bathroom of her rental unit.
I was shaking. I was in sheer, utter panic.
The shocking discovery and what happened next. Plus, the puck drops on the NHL playoffs as 5 Canadian teams set their sights on the Stanley Cup.
We are the best, and we have to prove it to everybody.
Making a run to reclaim glory in Canada's favorite sport. And replacing eggs with kegs, a typically Belgian take on the traditional Easter egg hunt.
People were running as if it was the Olympic Games, but around beer.
We're back in 2. That thick plume of smoke raised fears of contamination in Quebec early this morning. That's because the fire was in a salvage yard full of automobiles at a steel recycling plant about 65 kilometers east of Montreal. The local mayor acknowledging there were tires and plastic parts in those vehicles, but she said Quebec's Environment Ministry assured her there was no danger of toxicity. A Nova Scotia landlord has been charged with voyeurism after his tenant found a hidden camera in the bathroom of her rental unit. Nicola Sagan now on that disturbing discovery and what happened next.
The nightmare started in the bath. A young single mother's privacy evaporating when she looked up, spotting a tiny camera in the ceiling of her bathroom.
It looked like a screw, but I had a feeling that it was not a screw. I was shaking. I was in sheer, utter panic.
This is the camera she found, smaller than a pinky nail. The woman, whose identity is protected by a court-ordered publication ban, called police immediately. She says RCMP traced the camera to her landlord's home upstairs, the receiver hidden in a floor vent in his bathroom.
It was the sickest feeling of my life. I don't even know a word to describe how low and violated, I felt at that time.
RCMP say they executed a search warrant and seized items from the landlord's home, which led to a charge of voyeurism, a sex crime.
It's an incredibly serious offense.
This privacy lawyer says that charge could lead to others, depending who was caught on camera.
So somebody who observes a young person in this particular state voyeuristically is also creating child pornography.
The young woman is waiting to find out more about what was recorded, saying she and her young son never felt safe around their landlord.
I did not have anywhere else to go. There's a super bad rental crisis, as everyone knows.
Housing advocates say this is a chronic problem across the country.
We're going to continue to see these unfortunate stories with tenants trapped essentially in their current housing, because they don't want to risk the only housing they can find, the only housing they can afford.
The woman and her son are now staying with family and couch surfing as she searches for a new home where she isn't being watched. Nicola Sagan, CBC News, Digby County, Nova Scotia.
The matchups are set, the game's underway as 5 Canadian teams vie for the NHL's greatest prize.
The teams are so competitive, you have a 1 in 16 chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
The race to raise Lord Stanley's Cup. Next. Plus, after moving back home from LA, actor and comedian Shaun Majumder reflects on what it means to be Canadian.
We are way better than we ever gave ourselves credit for.
And frustration grows in Paris, where talks to end the conflict in Ukraine are showing little progress.
I think Vladimir Putin's game is to stall.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
A chance here for Heisey. Her shot, she scores! Tessa Janicki, your golden hero in Czechia.
Canada forced overtime in the gold medal game against the U.S., but it was the Americans who scored in the extra period, claiming the Women's World Championship title for the second time in 3 years. Despite the loss, Team Canada captain Marie-Philippe Poulin has reason to celebrate. She's become the Canadian with the most points all time at the tournament, passing Hayley Wickenheiser with a goal in the semifinal. For the first time in almost a decade, 5 Canadian teams are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And as Sam Sampson shows, there are high hopes one of those will finally bring the cup back to Canada.
And so the Battle of Ontario begins for the first time in 21 years. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators are fighting to move past the first round of the NHL playoffs, rivals with history.
These teams were meeting repeatedly in the playoffs, and it was kind of nasty. In the end, it was one-way traffic. Toronto just won time after time after time, and we're breaking the Senator fans' hearts.
But now Ottawa fans are ready for a comeback.
Leafs have been there, done that. I feel like we have so much gas in the tank.
There's also a national score to settle. With 5 Canadian teams in the playoffs for the first time since 2017, there's a chance to break Canada's 32-year Stanley Cup drought.
The Canadians win the Stanley Cup!
The Montreal Canadiens were the last to hoist the trophy back in 1993. This year, they just clinched a playoff spot in their last game of the regular season.
The Canadians are the Cinderella story. The slipper, I don't think, is going to fit the foot, unfortunately. And if there's one thing we know, you just never count Montreal out.
Winnipeggers ask the same for their Jets.
Everybody doubts us. You know, they don't believe in such a little small town. But you know what? We are the best.
History is not on their side. It's been more than a decade since the best regular season team also won the cup.
I've never been to Vegas and I'm not a shark, but I know that odds reset every year. And when you enter the NHL playoffs, the teams are so competitive, you have a 1 in 16 chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
That's the hope in Edmonton, where signs of playoff hockey are in full bloom. After last year's loss in the final, the Oilers are bringing hope for redemption and more business to Alberta's capital city.
Our last playoff season was super busy. People have been talking about it all year, so now we're excited to just bring that back and see a nice cup run for the boys.
A sentiment heard around the country as 5 cities hope spring hockey lasts into summer. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world.
He believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state.
With all the talk of trade wars and annexation threats, many Canadians are feeling a mix of anxiety and national pride.
We like it here, we can improve, but we don't want to be the United States.
So here at The National, we're checking in with some notable Canadians to find out how they're feeling and ask what being Canadian means to them.
Canada, you know I love you so much.
This week, actor and comedian Shaun Majumder.
Let's do it. What's going on here? Okay, now don't respond. He's just trying to test us, all right?
Majumder recently moved back from Los Angeles with his elbows up.
And we don't need to kick and scream and say we're the best. We can just be the best.
He joined us remotely from his new home just outside Windsor, Nova Scotia. What's it like to be back in Atlantic Canada?
Oh man, it feels so good. It feels like a warm hug, even though it was the best time to send my family ahead of me as I was packing up my house in Los Angeles, California, right after the fires. I said, guys, here's a good idea. I'm going to send you ahead of me. I'm going to bring you to Nova Scotia in the middle of February, in the highest tax province in the entire country, with a very difficult time finding a family doctor. You go there, trust me, it's all going to work out. And then I got my U-Haul and drove across the country and came up through New Brunswick, and here I am, safe and sound. It feels amazing.
I did it! I did it! I made it!
There's nothing like being outside of Canada to kind of get a sense of what it's like to be in this country. So tell me about that, the contrast of being in, well, in your case, in small town Nova Scotia after being in one of the biggest cities in the United States.
It's such an amazing thing. Like when I was here as a kid, like I didn't have a real appreciation for what Canada was and what it offered, and the kind of subconscious feeling that it gives you. And then you go there, and I have my life there, but now when I come back with my two kids and my family, that feeling is so different. It feels so right. It feels safe, it feels secure, regardless of the fears and the dangers in the world. There's just something about where I am now, and even my wife, who's American. I've got two young girls, 3 and 5 years old. There's just this feeling of like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, well, it's not weird at all. Now, here's a question my entire life, and I'm sure yours as well. You've heard people try to answer, political scientists, politicians, artists. It's a big question, but I'm curious about your answer to this. What's your sense of what does it mean to be Canadian?
Well, it's a big question, and I think that as a country, we are so young, and I feel like we're like a teenage kid who has had, you know, this insecurity our whole lives. We've got this big brother to the south, and we've always kind of been like, yeah, but we want to tag along. Can we come? And Big Brother was like, no, you can't afford it, you know. And but we had this kind of sub feeling about it. And then the things that have happened over the last month, the feeling that Canada now has mojo, the feeling that Canada is kind of like, no, dude, I think we should ghost America for a bit, and we should just kind of look at ourselves and be like, wait a minute, we don't need anybody else. Like, we are amazing. We are way better than we ever gave ourselves credit for.
Shortly after you came back, you got right into the elbows up movement, the rallies. Why? Tell me about that.
Well, it's interesting. Peter Wall, who produces those events, he saw my Instagram post as I was driving across the country, coming through Nashville, coming up through Maine, and he knew my story. And the feeling that I was sharing on these posts was, you know, I'm bringing my entire family back to Canada because the time is right. LA specifically had played itself out for us, and everything that America is going through right now does not align with my values. And he saw these posts and was like, dude, I want you just to come and tell your story at these events. And that's how it started. And as we do these events and I start seeing all these Canadians that are coming together, political, like of all political stripes. It's not, you know, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, this is just a liberal thing, or it's just a, you know, one way or the other. It's not. These are people from all over Canada who are coming together. It's above the politics. It's above the fray. And it was just so nice to feel people come together and wrap that flag around each other and say, we're in this together, you know? And that's not something that I feel like people have felt clearly for the last little while. So I know we're in a political season now, and there is that divide, But I think above and beyond, when you have somebody threatening our sovereignty, seriously, we all came together, and I think we will rise above all that, you know?
You're an actor and a comedian. That's why you went down to Los Angeles. A lot of people feel that's where people have to be to get work. And so now you're in small town Nova Scotia. How's that going to work for you?
It's going to be great. I mean, really, like, I think the beauty of the evolution of the industry that I've chosen my whole life, essentially, is that now you can pretty much do it from anywhere at all. I just booked a TV show in this barn over here the other day for a show on Peacock, an NBC Peacock show. And I'm like, you can be anywhere right now and do that. And Nova Scotia and many cities across Canada have a thriving film industry. With the state of our dollar, you know, there's so much filming. Hollywood North is going to have a great year. And so there's no place I'd rather be right now. And especially with the embracing of telling Canadian stories, shows, you know, about the North. You've got all these regional shows. Canada is prime to continue churning out incredible, authentic, culturally important stories. And I'm just so excited. There's nowhere else I'd rather be.
I didn't have time to include it, but I also asked Shaun, given the fact a lot of Canadians have changed their travel plans, not going to the States, where in Canada he'd recommend. Not surprisingly, he was advocating for his home province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Coming up, peace talks in Paris aimed at ending the war in Ukraine have so far yielded little result.
From Vladimir Putin's point of view, probably what makes the most sense is to play for time, see what happens.
Why Russia may not feel motivated to make a deal. Next. Russia and Ukraine are accusing each other of violating a 30-hour Easter truce. Citing humanitarian motives, Russian President Vladimir Putin declared the ceasefire would start at 6 p.m. Moscow time Saturday and said he assumed Ukraine would follow suit. Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia used shelling and heavy weapons 2,000 times. Russia's defense ministry says it was Ukraine that launched hundreds of drones and shells.
We're going to just take a pass.
Putin's proposal came after the U.S. president suggested he might abandon further efforts to broker a lasting peace.
Do you think Russia's playing you?
No, nobody's playing me. I'm trying to help.
Today, Donald Trump said on social media he hoped the two countries would make a deal this week. So let's break down what Trump has done to change the dynamic of that war. As analysts warn the U.S. has moved closer to Russia, Terrence McKenna drills down on the special envoy driving that change and what it could mean for Ukraine's future.
While there is much talk of peace negotiations, the Russian military is not letting up. It brags of its Iskander missile system. The missiles are truck-mounted for maneuverability and have a range of 500 kilometers. They have high-explosive fragmentation warheads and can carry cluster bombs to maximize human casualties. Because they travel at high speed, they are difficult to intercept. This recent Russian missile attack on Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi Rih killed 20 people, including 9 children. One of the missiles landed in a playground. 2 more missiles with cluster warheads hit the Ukrainian city of Sumy on the morning of Palm Sunday, as people were on the way to attend church services, killing 35. Firemen had to work to free victims from their cars.
They're losing at least 2,500 human beings, beautiful human beings, a week. And I wanted to stop.
Now U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to end the fighting by asking both sides to agree to a 30-day ceasefire. Ukrainian President Zelensky quickly agreed. But after initially indicating agreement in principle, Vladimir Putin seems to be headed in the opposite direction. On a recent visit to a submarine base in Murmansk, he asked the Russian military to crush the Ukrainians. Guardian correspondent Luke Harding has covered the Ukraine war from the very start.
We've seen Putin recently mobilize more than 100,000 additional troops. These are not the actions of a Russian leader who wants peace. They're the actions of someone who thinks they can take more territory and meanwhile screw as many concessions as possible from basically a pro-Russian Trump administration.
I think Vladimir Putin's game is to stall.
Richard Haass, the emeritus chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations, served in senior U.S. State Department roles under both Republican and Democratic administrations.
He sees himself in a better position to prosecute the war than Ukraine, given his advantages in scale and so forth. And there's all sorts of questions about the long-term willingness of the United States to support Ukraine. So from Vladimir Putin's point of view, probably what makes the most sense is to play for time, see what happens.
After 3 years and hundreds of thousands dead, can Ukraine hold out? Dmytro Kuleba was Zelensky's foreign minister for 5 years until 2024. He spoke to us from Kyiv.
How do you think Vladimir Putin is approaching these latest negotiations? What's his game?
He believes that he's on a winning trajectory, and if you listen to what he's saying, even publicly, it just confirms that he believes he's on good track. He's going to get it all. All he needs to do now is to flatter President Trump.
Putin has attempted to manipulate Trump through Steve Witkoff, the president's real estate billionaire buddy and special envoy who is handling the negotiations with Russia.
Putin's got a huge respect for the president.
Witkoff gave an astonishing interview to Tucker Carlson that provided an unwitting portrait of Putin's successful attempts to flatter the president.
When the president was shot, he went to his local church and met with his priest and prayed for the president because he had a friendship with him and he was praying for his friend.
I mean, there is a word to describe the Witkoffs of this world, and I think that's the word is sucker. Witkoff believing that Putin prayed for Donald Trump. I mean, come off it. I mean, it's for the birds, and I think it just shows the weakness of the people around Trump.
Trump seems to have his own weakness for Vladimir Putin. Recently, he spoke about how he and Putin bonded over allegations that he colluded with Russia.
We had to go through the Russian hoax together. That was not a good thing. It's not fair.
He thinks like Putin and he acts like Putin. I don't see much difference between the reasons, the excuses behind President Putin's annexation of Crimea and invasion of Ukraine and what President Trump is saying today about Canada, Greenland, Panama, and other places in the world.
After Putin seized Ukrainian territories by military force, he arranged so-called referendums there to sanction the forced accession to Russia, a move rejected by all Western leaders and the United Nations, but apparently recognized by Trump emissary Witkoff, who couldn't even name the territories in question.
I think the largest issue in that conflict are these so-called four regions, Donbass, Crimea, the names, Lugansk, and there's two others. They're Russian-speaking.
Yep.
There have been referendums where the overwhelming majority of the people have indicated that they want to be under Russian rule.
Either he's clearly pushing the Russian narrative about the referendums which were held at the barrel of the gun in the illegally occupied territories, or he just does not understand what is happening there.
Most everyone agrees that after a ceasefire, the Ukrainian territories that Russia has seized will remain in Russian hands, at least temporarily.
I believe Ukrainians will never accept legal secession of these territories to Russia. How much time will it take to bring these territories back, and how they may be brought back? That's another question.
In a Fox News interview, Trump indicated he was aware of Putin's desire to control all of Ukraine.
They may make a deal, they may not make a deal, they may be Russian someday, or they may not be Russian someday.
Ukraine's bargaining power will very much depend on whether the U.S. will keep supplying it with weapons.
I think the simplest thing for the United States to do is to announce that it will provide Ukraine with enough arms to defend itself for as long as it takes. It might be 20, 30, 40 billion dollars a year worth of arms, and it's open-ended. I think there has to be enough arms to persuade Putin that continued fighting will not achieve his goals, that he might as well accept the ceasefire.
Recently, Putin set a new Russian precondition to negotiations, that President Zelensky should resign and the Ukraine government should be replaced.
Обсудить возможности введения на Украине временного управления.
Putin's proposal provoked an immediate negative reaction from Donald Trump, who said he was angry and pissed off at Putin's stalling.
He considers Zelensky not credible. He's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that.
What is clear is that when this peace process fails, he won't blame himself. He won't blame Vladimir Putin. Ultimately, he will blame Zelensky and the Ukrainians.
Richard Haas is not so pessimistic.
The grounds for optimism is that Ukraine has become much more realistic, that Zelensky has come around to essentially a defense of the status quo, a freeze in the battlefield. And if the United States is willing to back him in that, then I think gradually, inevitably, Vladimir Putin will come around to a ceasefire. So I think this is quite possible.
As Vladimir Putin continues to stall ceasefire negotiations, the Ukrainian victims pile up. The 20 in Kryvyi Rih included 9-year-old Herman triplets.
Золота дитина. Він так любив життя.
Volodymyr Zelensky visited a memorial for the children who died in his hometown, under enormous pressure to make some sort of peace deal, but at what cost?
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio suggested there are only days left to make a ceasefire deal, or the United States might move on to other matters. But he did agree to attend another meeting between Ukraine and the European powers, scheduled for later this week in the UK. Coming up, the Easter Bunny had an extra hoppy surprise for those thirsty Belgians.
Never sprinted so hard in my life. I thought I was going to war.
Easter beer hunting is next in our moment. You're looking at the start of the world's biggest Easter beer hunt, held in Belgium, just 45 minutes south of Brussels. It's a mad dash to collect as much as you can. Organizers replaced the traditional Easter eggs with 10,000 beers hidden across the sprawling property of an ancient abbey. So tonight, this boozy twist on the Easter tradition is our moment.
People were running as if it was the Olympic Games, but around beer. Like, I never sprinted so hard in my life. I thought I was going to war.
Aujourd'hui, on a organisé avec Gutgard, avec notre brasserie, une chasse à la bière pour les fêtes de Pâques. Et donc, on a mis 10 000 bières, il y a eu 1000 participants.
Le plus rapide d'entre nous aller directement dans le fond. Comme ça, on peut choper un maximum de bière avant que le reste de la horde même puisse arriver et prendre ce qui est nôtre.
Porter mon poids plus le poids de la bière.
It's something so Belgian to do. Like, we love beer.
And one of those beer bottles is the golden beer, and if you find that one, you get your weight in beer. I know this because Andrew, the producer, sent me notes, and he also sent a note saying he really, really wants to visit Belgium now. For all of us here at The National, thanks for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the CBC News app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannah-Mansing in Vancouver. I hope you can join me weeknights on CBC News Network at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific.